Okay. Okay. So that's Yami's sister, right? Of course. All right. All right. And why do you look more like his sibling than she looks like his? I just don't know what you mean. Don't lie to me, Ryuya. Thank you to our final patrons, Straw Bones and Aaron. Now, before we hop into this breakdown slash review of chapter 338 of Black Clover, please feel free to leave your own thoughts on the chapter in the comment section down below. Leave a like and subscribe if you haven't already. Also, make sure you hit that little notification bell so you miss out on any videos that come to the channel. Also, I do have a Patreon down below. You can support for as low as $1 a month to get things like exclusive videos, early content, and more. Now, let's hop into last week's poll. So, last week I ended up asking y'all a simple question. Obviously, we're in the land of the sun, not the rising sun, the land of the sun. And we see that pretty much every single human is trying to get their gains up. You know what I'm saying? Whether they a true human, whether they a human, whether they a dwarf human, like everyone is getting ready for battle and finding Asta. But considering that we know Black Clover is a world full of more than just humans, I wanted to know, out of the other races that we either A, know of, or B, hypothetically exist, who did you want to see preparing for battle the most? We had 4 options. We had dwarves, elves, demons, and angels. And with an overwhelming, girthy 58% of the vote, the dwarves came in. Y'all wanted Charmy's people to rise up and fight. And to be fair, I will give y'all this. They are simultaneously one of the most interesting races to learn about, yet we've learned so little about them. All we know is that Charmy's half one. Like that's it. That's literally all we have. We have not seen, I legitimately don't think we've seen a whiff more of information. And I think that's what makes everyone so desperate, myself included, to see more of them. Because it's like, well, Charmy's kind of weirdly strong and has stupid magic. So what about the rest of y'all? Like, are the rest of y'all snapped too? And obviously, in terms of like potential to explore, there is a whole ton of it. But hey, I don't know. Maybe we'll get it. Maybe we won't. I don't know. We're kind of burning through some time real quick. We only have 7 days. Next up, we do have the Angels, and this is a very close race. The Angels at 17%. Notably, the idea of Angels in Black Clover has pretty much existed since the moment the Underworld was introduced. Like, everyone and their mother who has a basic conception of every realm having a mirror realm that happens to be based on, you know, the afterlife and heaven and the underworld, you know, it's pretty common. So obviously the moment the underworld was introduced, people are like, well, if there's an underworld, there must be an upper world. And with this upper world being introduced, or not introduced, but alluded to through the sheer existence of an underworld, angels have always been a hot topic, and Lucius has only added fuel to the fire by essentially introducing the idea of true humans, which is purified demon power, which essentially makes you sacred power. Interesting. Sacred, upper world, life, angels, like everyone's a little bit leaning towards it a bit extra now. So I'm not shocked that 17% of the vote went to angels, because, you know, it could be like that when it be like that sometimes. Then we have elves, and notably, like, they were my sleeper pick in terms of like who I really wanted to see do something. I know we had the entire elf arc, which is why I'm assuming they only got 16% of the vote, and they rocked out there. But I don't know, it feels like we have such a powerful faction of beings that were extremely powerful that we just don't use, like, ever. Like, Patchy's right there, Riot is right there, like, all these beings are right there, but we just don't use them. Like, they don't exist. Like, Tabata, please. But I understand 16% of y'all also understand, and obviously we want them to do something. It's still their world too. Like, it's not like Lucius is going to leave them alone. I assume he probably just erased them all. Like, if he only wants humans, by humans, for humans, of humans, Nell's probably got to go. Then, finally, in last place, shockingly enough, we have demons. And only 9% of y'all really wanted the Underworld Rebellion. And to be fair, it was also my least interesting pick of all these. But still, I think it would be cool. I think it would be cool to see the underworld sort of like rise up against Lucius. Like, I'm not sure how he's really controlling them. I'm assuming Meli is like acting as his like his general of sorts, that's sort of ruling over the underworld in his stead. And obviously, we're not sure about the stat. Well, I think I know. We know the status of Buggy Boy. He's incarnated into Lilia right now, and Lucci got eaten. And there's a third one. Rothy is the only one we have, like, sheer unawares about. We have no idea where Rothy is. But, assumedly, Lucius has some sort of control over him. Because, time, and what is Lucius's, like, secondary power but time. But, I don't know. It's very interesting. I really wonder how long the underworld shall stay suppressed. Or if they're really just all going to be incarnated in the true humans. I'm intrigued. I'm very, very intrigued. However, thank you so much for participating in last week's poll. I love doing these polls. They open up for great discussions early on in these videos. I love getting the community consensus on certain things. And please make sure you get your input in on tomorrow's poll, dropping at 12 p.m. to make sure your input is included in next week's review. Now, let's hop into Chapter 338. What's up, guys? I'm Pencil here, and here we are to Chapter 338 of Black Clover, which is known as Trouble on a Foreign Road, aka I still believe Ryuya is Yami's brother, or cousin, or some relation. I'm sorry, they look too similar, and I'm sorry, I don't care. I feel like it's not a red herring. It's probably true because they literally call her Lady Yami, but still, I feel like this is some sort of misdirection, some sort of beguiling, or something happened. Something happened. There's no reason Yami just left, unless there's some external reason that Yami just left. Like, it's too shady. It's too shady. I don't trust it just yet. However, enough of that. Let's hop right into the chapter itself. So we open up and we get to see that Asta is a little bit confused. And he's like, wait a minute. Land of the Sun. This place. Wait a minute. Captain Yami's homeland. Wait a minute. Like, I love how so many questions just run through his head. Like, wait, okay, so I'm in a new place. Wait, this is the place that Captain Yami told me about. Wait, how am I supposed to get home? Like, it's a logical sequence of events. Like, imagine if you just woke up in another country. Like, overseas, too. Like, straight up. Like, it's not like you wake up, like for the people who live in the United States, it's not like you wake up in Mexico. Like, you're still on the same landmass. No, you're in, like, Europe. You just wake up in France one day. Like, I think that'd be wild. So I don't blame Asta for freaking out. Even if one of your homies, one of your biggest homies, or one of your parental figures is from France, you're going to be like, how do I get here? How do I get back? Do I still have access to my bank accounts? Like, what's going on? So I think it's a very realistic reaction that Asta would be kind of blown away and overwhelmed by, like, literal probably sensory and informational overload here. I think most people would be. And it seems like Ryuya is, like, trying to calm Asta down. She's like, hey, you may be stressing, you may be worried about that Lucius guy, but it's whatever. He's not going to move immediately. He's not that guy. He's that guy, but he's not that guy. Come on now, calm down. And it's interesting. I really wonder how far Ryuya can see into the future. Like, assumedly, it's got to be a while, right? But, like, does he know? Like, he says he knows that Asta would lose. That's one thing he knows. And if that's the case, does he see Asta winning after 7 days? Like, what is his end game plan here? Because I'm assuming he sees multiple branches, right? Multiple timelines as of sort of like, is it spoilers? It's spoilers, so I'll be quiet. I mean, the manga's 11 years old. Whatever, I'll keep quiet. But there's another character who sees the future in various branching ways. So I'm assuming Ryuya has the same potential. And if that's the case, like, I wonder how much he's seeing right now. Like, assumedly, if you can see the future with your one eye, you can probably do it constantly. But maybe he doesn't do it constantly to not overwhelm his head. I don't know. It's very, very interesting. And we do get to see that I mean, Asta, he did literally say that he is wait, hold on, let me double check what he said last chapter. Maybe he didn't clarify that's the ruler, but I'm pretty sure he said, I'm the shogun of this land, I'm the leader. But let me double check. My name's Ryuya. Oh yeah, he says I'm the shogun, the guy in charge of this place. So obviously, shogun just means leader, Asta. It's not that deep. You don't need to be that stupid. Come on now, Asta. However, we do get to see that after Asta asks what a shogun is, Ryuya essentially has to equivocate it for him. Like, I didn't know this guy was this stupid. I'm pretty sure I just said I was a leader, but, let me do this. If I were to equivocate it to your primitive, foolish, and backwards country, you'd probably call me the Wizard King, but that's very interesting. That's very interesting, because that inherently implies that there's, like, an emperor figure here. Like, if Julius is the Wizard King, there was a real king alongside him that appointed Julius. So is there a real emperor alongside Ryuya that appointed Ryuya? Because the Wizard King is a weird equivocation, especially considering he himself cannot use magic, as we learn later on in this chapter. But we also know now that the like button is free and so is the subscribe button, so I greatly appreciate if you hit both of those. But in actuality, like, it's very interesting that he compares it directly to the Wizard King, especially after Asta's recent trauma. Like, maybe you should have just said king, like some other way, so you didn't have to bring up bad memories. However, the interesting thing is that you can even see that Asta starts to freak out a little bit. He's like, wait, like the Wizard King, the last one of those cut my chest open. Like, I don't even blame him, because once again, the PTSD that Asta must have right now is gotta be insane. Like, friend-zoned, brother-zoned, and then betrayed by your greatest idol, and then blasted away to another country. Like, the levels upon levels of trauma this man now has of this one day, this one experience alone, gotta be crazy, gotta be wild. However, we do get to see that Asta, like, would I do that? That's a weird thing, right? I mean, maybe because Asta has Gain, but then he doesn't have Lieb with him right now. He has the anti-magic arm, which implies that Lieb is okay. Assumingly, if Lieb were to ever really die, the anti-magic arm would just, like, pop out of existence. But in this case, like, even if I could hypothetically sense magic or sense any quantification of one's strength, I wouldn't directly tell that person, especially if they are of any sort of leading capacity, that they are weak. Like, I just wouldn't. Especially if I'm in a foreign land and I'm relying for everything on this person. Like, I wouldn't insult them. I get it. It's probably like, Asta doesn't mean to be insulting, but like, common sense logic, you don't bite the hand that feeds you. And considering you're under Ryuya's complete domain, like, legitimately, he might as well have said Ryoki Tenkai and, like, has control over the entire land. So I don't know why you would go to immediately insulting him when you yourself are unarmed. Like, maybe he can summon his Greenboard to him right now, but I don't think so, because Lieb isn't here. And Lieb is currently getting patched up by this guy who you are now insulting. Asta, think a little bit. However, we get to see that, luckily enough, Ryuya, I'm assuming, has a sense of humor, and he just laughs it off. Like, yeah, you know, I don't really have that many gains. It'd be like that. And it's interesting how Asta, I mean, assumingly the wizard, that's the weird thing. Like, from a power scaling standpoint, welcome to that guy with the pencil. From a power scaling standpoint, Julius actually wasn't that strong after the Patry fight. Mainly because Patry kind of just does a whole ton of outscaling beyond that, and then he gets outscaled by weaker variations of Asta and Yuno, who then get outscaled by stronger variations of the captain, and, like, the Dark Triad happen. Like, so many things happen afterwards of the Wizard King's death, at least. The only fight we had for him for the longest time, that he was kind of weak in terms of the post-time skip verse. Like, you wouldn't throw Julius out against people if you really wanted to win. You would really, like, pull out Asta, Noel, any of the Dark Triad, any of the Underworld people. Like, you would pull out them. Not necessarily Julius, because Julius, just in terms of inverse scaling, didn't have that much. But I suppose, because of his title, that's where a lot of people... Like, that's where a lot of people did all that for Julius off his title alone. Assumedly, Asta is probably shocked here, because in his head, the Wizard King should be strong. So why is this equivalent to the Wizard King kind of fodder? Which is why I still, once again, think it would have been better to equivocate himself to just a regular king. Not just for Asta's trauma, but on top of that, because if you aren't that strong, you just represent the king. Obviously, Ryuya has different abilities that probably make him a lot more valid than our original king that happens to exist in the Clover Kingdom. But still, I feel like the comparison would have been more apt. However, we do get to see that this woman here is not necessarily too happy that Asta is just, once again, insulting her leader. Like, imagine you were of a royal guard, and suddenly some dude that your leader went out of their way to save starts insulting them after they were saved and healed by said leader and his faction. You probably wouldn't be too happy either. So I can't even really get mad at Ichiki here for, like, wanting smoke. Like, why wouldn't you? Because obviously this is a person you greatly respect and they're currently being insulted by, as you view, an outsider who just happened to show up. Which really makes me wonder, like, we see Asta washed up on a beach. So, like, how far did Ryuya have to carry him? Or was it Ichika who carried him? I don't know. However, we do get to see that Asta does finally realize, oh, wait, I've been being stupid and mean. Let me apologize. And we see that Asta is once again using the think he can sense key. And it seems like he says, I guess she really is mad. Her key did sort of seem like that. Can't you just see her face? She doesn't look like the happiest of campers, Asta. I don't think you need the key sensing for that. However, it's interesting how Asta immediately recognizes her key as something really familiar, but really dangerous. And he doesn't make that association with Ryuya. So it really may just be that Ryuya just happens to look like Yami, because they're both from the same place. I'm trying to think. I don't even know. Like, nah. Even I'm even going through like my friends and trying to think of who has Aiden like. You could, but then again, it could just be same face syndrome. Let me cut that off. It really could just be same face syndrome that happens by accident. Like, I read Seven Deadly Sins. I've seen some same faces. So let me just leave that be. Maybe Ryuya is suppressing his ki or altering it so it doesn't feel like Yami's, and he is actually related to him, and or they just happen to really, really, really look alike. It'd be like that when it'd be like that sometimes. However, we do get to see that Ryuya, essentially to calm Asta down and get him more acclimated, he's offering to take Asta sightseeing. You know, like just show him around, get him more comfortable before they throw him into a training gauntlet, since he's obviously going to need it if he plans to beat Lucius in 7 days. And we see that Asta apparently takes him up on the offer, and they're just walking around. And notably, no one is really paying attention to Ryuya. Like, I don't know, at least from what we see here, no one is like fawning over him. Like if Julius were to just walk out in the open like this with his face revealed before, you know, the whole traitor thing and Lucius thing, he would be like mobbed, swarmed. It's Julius, it's the Wizard King. People would recognize him. I'm assuming the same thing would happen if the regular king went about, even though he isn't as beloved. People would just move out of his way because of respect for him, because of his title. But seemingly the whole country doesn't seem to care that much about their leader just walking around. Interesting. I don't know. It may go to show that they don't respect him for a certain reason that we may find out later, but then again, I wonder how he got the position. Questions on questions on questions. However, we do get to see that Asta is amazed as he's seeing all these different things that he pretty much would never see in the Clover Kingdom. And one of these amazing different things is scrolls. People unroll scrolls and we see that they're essentially putting on a show of birds of fire and water using magical scrolls. And notably, they aren't using grimoires, they're using scrolls. And someone, I forget, if I remember the post where I saw it, I would tag them. But someone, just know this isn't my own memory, this is someone who pointed this out. I believe Yuno found a scroll that contained Sylph. Like, way back when. So, are these more, like, nature spirits or anything? Maybe, like, weaker ones? Because Sylph seems to be exceptionally strong, along with Salamander and, like, all the other nature spirits. But it's interesting that these people use scrolls and have birds in them. Maybe it's just, like, they're molding their magic to make birds. We know you can do that. And if that's the case, that's fine. But it's interesting how a scroll held a nature spirit, and now these scrolls also are releasing physical embodiments of certain elements in the shape of animals and creatures. Interesting. And we see that as Asta begins to question, wait a minute, hold on, that's magic, but with no grimoires, Ryuya explains, oh yeah, we don't read books here, because books are for nerds. We use scrolls, and we don't use magic here because we aren't smarter, faster, better, stronger. We're just different. We use, now hold on, Yojutsu. That's not as complicated as I thought it was going to be to say, but Yojutsu. That's what they use instead. Scrolls and Yojutsu, which is just magic and grimoires with a different flavor text, quite literally different text. And interestingly enough, I wonder if obviously this is a different continent, but does every single continent have a different conduit for magic? And if so, is the like button really free and the subscribe button too? Yes, you could hit both of those. They really help out the channel and I greatly appreciate it. But in actuality, like, books, scrolls, what other writing? I'm trying to think of any other major writing things that people would write on. Like, is there a kingdom where they use stone tablets? Like, they write magical inscriptions on those and then they are used for magic. Is there a group where, what are the major things people write? But essentially, I wonder if there's variations for every single one of these. Because even in our old kingdom, our old continent, we saw there's difference between Clover Kingdom Grimoires, Clover Kingdom Grimoires and Spade Kingdom Grimoires. They have obviously a spade and a clover, but they're still overall grimoires. So is there like different variations of these certain things everywhere? And if so, how varied are they? Are they on completely different writing form? Are they on completely different material? Like, what? I wonder what the limits are. I doubt we'll get all that, but even then, just this implication that there are various types of ways to conjure magic or yojutsu in Black Clover makes me wonder about the rest of the world and how complicated it can get. However, we do get to see that Asta spots these weird fruit things, and he says that, wait a minute, these are nomotetos. What's the village specialty doing here? Could this get any more nostalgic? I never felt so safe. Step right up, kid. That's some flashy hair. To be fair, now that he mentions that, I do see a whole ton of black hair everywhere, which does make sense. I'm assuming the land of the sun is based on the land of the rising sun, which is Japan, and a common hair color there is black. So it would make sense that everyone has black hair. And Asta's own whitish, grayish, silverish hair would stand out and be considered flashy. Though interesting that these seemingly Clover Kingdom fruits are here too, or I suppose maybe they came from here to the Clover Kingdom. I don't know. It's interesting. I wonder who had it first, and if so, who brought what? Did Yami bring some over and just happen to leave them at the village of Hog? Like, and then bada bing, bada boom, they ended up growing this stuff because they're like, wow, this is smacking. Or vice versa. I don't know. Very interesting. And we do get to see that trauma hitting different. Like, I mean, like, I really wonder what would have happened if, like, say we put a pause on Lucius, right? Like, say Lucius waited a day more and, like, Lily was just gone. I wonder what would have happened, right? Because Asta, he got brother zoned, but he seemed all right about it. Like, it was whatever. But the fact that she really turned on our boy and, like, sent him to a foreign land, which admittedly should cause him some form of comfort. Like, she didn't actually erase him from existence when she very easily could have. But in that case, you get to see that as an older sister and younger sister go and try and get something, it reminds Asta of a past time when he was with Sister Lily and Yuno, and he wanted something. But of course, due to his most recent experience with Sister Lily being literally her declaring that he needs to die, it's not good to see anymore. What would have been probably a happy moment of reflection that would have given him joy literally a day ago is now something that strikes trauma and sadness in him. And honestly, I'm very intrigued to see how Tabata's going to spin this in the final war. Like, I don't think, unless this is literally all, this is going to sound so stupid, but if we're really just going to go Lucius is full Aizen, like 100 million, billion, trillion % Aizen, and he's just training Asta up on purpose so he could be the best and most final fight ever, then maybe it makes sense that Sister Lily didn't just wipe him from existence, maybe I can excuse it then. Because, then there's a reason. Because Lucius was like, oh, you know what, I'll make him look like he perished so I can get the max out of everyone else here before I turn them into monsters and angels and stuff like that. However, in actuality, I do want a good final fight before I become king of the world, so go train him off somewhere. Maybe that could be the case, but I really think, like, Sister Lily is still somewhere in there. Like, the love she had for him, on a platonic level, obviously, as her little sister, as his big sister, as her being the older sister to Asta being the little brother, she did conscientiously save him, even if it was like out of sheer accident. I don't think her programming was perfect in that moment. I think she literally, in her own way, saved Asta by sending him here, sending him as far away that Nacht couldn't sense him. So look at that, Lucius couldn't sense him, and thusly, bada bing, bada boom, Asta's safe. So in a way, I still believe Sister Lily is protecting Asta, but to Asta, when you get told by the love of your life that just brothers owned you, you need to die, and then you get blasted away to a foreign country, you really can't tell the difference. So I can definitely understand why Asta is so deep in turmoil right now, because that would hurt. Like, I'm not sure how many people have long loves of their entire lives turn on them and strike them down, but imagine that. Imagine if you had someone you even liked at all. Like, say someone you liked for 2 years, or your current spouse or girlfriend or whatever, or any person you are a partner with, your partner, were to just suddenly turn on you and be like, die. You'd be traumatized too. And anything that would remind you of that person, especially in such short order, would probably also reawaken that new trauma. So I like what Tabata's doing here, long story short. And we do get to see that Ryuya instantly picks up on this. He's like, but actually he doesn't. Ironically enough, I don't think he notices what Asta sees. He sees something else, because he runs up to these two and says, hey, look that way for a second. So he doesn't necessarily worrying about Asta's feelings right now, but what he is worrying about is the people that burst through the darn wall. And we see that as Asta cries out for Ryuya and the wall explodes, a whole bunch of bandits pop in. And, like, I get it. It's just shown in manga, right? So obviously it's going to be goofy. But, like, what gaggle of thieves, what group of individuals that wants to be at all intimidating comes in and calls themselves, especially like this lead guy, right? Bro looks tall, he looks beefy, he looks muscular. Why would you name your group Bad News Badgers? What? Like it's so like confusing. And Bad News Badgers, like, if I heard the Bad News Badgers were coming to town, I would think it's a traveling theater group. Like the Bad News Badgers, like how do you come out of this and think, yeah, that's hard, yeah, it's gonna get people real scared of us, yeah, look at my games, we the Bad News like, just can't take it seriously. Like, I respect the confidence. I think that's where I gotta give him credit. That takes a level of confidence that me personally, I could never have. I could never name myself the Bad News Badgers and expect anyone to take me seriously. I would laugh at myself. I would legit laugh at myself. However, we do get to see that despite their dumb name, they do seem to be some sort of threat, right? They just burst through a wall. They're all armed with katanas. That one dude is really, really big, and he has a gigantic spiked flaming club. So even if he's a little bit silly and goofy in the name, he's probably about the business. And we get to see that everyone begins to run, obviously, because death, and they don't want to give up their food and valuables because they don't want to die. And we get to see that with all these people here, everyone starts running. And when everyone starts running, Asta's like, oh, well, darn, this sucks. I was hoping this would be a perfect place. Why does every place have to have monsters and bandits and demons? Like, why does this always have to happen? And we get to see that in the smoke and chaos of it all, Asta, who, interestingly enough, though, he should be able to sense Ryu's fine because of his ki. Even if he can't sense magic, he should be able to sense his ki. I don't know why Asta's so shocked here, but, I guess just the sheer fear of it all. He may be able to feel his ki, but could have been damaged. But in actuality, we get to see that Ryu is just fine. He's like, oh, wow, that was a shock, huh? All right, go ahead, go on home. There you go. Go on home. Okay. And we see that the two sisters run off. And we see that Asta's like, wait a minute. Hold on a second. It missed them by Nah. That boy saw the future. He moved into a spot where it'd be safe. And in that case, isn't that what Key is supposed to do? Wasn't Key supposed to give you precog? Like, to a degree? I know it was supposed to, but I guess the idea is you need to be okay. I see why Ryu is special. Not only can he see far into the future and see hypothetical alternate possibilities and timelines, but on top of that, he can see things before battles even begin. So that has to be a constant headache though, because like if you're seeing every single possibility, that's gotta suck. But we see that the Bad News Badger is leader man. He's like, who are you? And why are you not running? And did you know if the like button's free, so the subscribe button and pencil greatly appreciate if you hit both of those. Who's Pencil? I have no idea, but he keeps telling me to say it, and I don't know who I am. But I am the Bad News Badger, though. So what are you still doing here? We get to see that Ryu is like, well, I'm just here for the vibe, honestly. And considering the fact that I have no Ryoku, I can't really throw hands with you guys. However, fun fact, shock horror, I have someone who can. And we get to see that while Ryu isn't recognized, Ichika is. Because as she steps forward to protect Ryuya, the people are like, huh? Isn't that? So somehow, I'm thinking of Magi. Because this is only, it's where because of just how focused the series is on kings and stuff like that. I always think of it when I come to think of like, how would kings be known as, or leaders be known as in a manga setting, or even a mystical manga setting, which is what Manga essentially is. And like, everyone in Sindria knew the 8 generals. That is something that was true. Everyone could recognize them, but they also recognized Sinbad. Like, it wasn't too complicated. So the fact that these people don't recognize Ryuya but recognize Ichika is interesting. I wonder if there's purpose behind that, essentially. Especially considering they can clearly see that he's commanding her around, even if he's saying like, oh, they're all yours. Like, it's obvious she responds with a yes sir. You don't just yes sir your homies. Like, I mean I occasionally yes sir the homies, but that's like it's in a mocking and joking fashion. I don't yes sir like they're an authority figure. But we'll see. And we get to see that the Bad News Badger's big man is like, you're sending this skinny little girl instead? That's pathetic, guy. Well, you better entertain us real good. And as you know, the smaller they are in anime, the more dangerous they are. Because immediately Ichika, and it's interesting, I'm not sure, like, these lines may not correspond directly, but it seems like the whole presence around her darkens, for one, right? Like, she begins to seemingly be enveloped in shadow, and then sparks begin to radiate from her. Like, first they come from her eyes. They reach down and up at the same time, spiking out from her eyes as she declares, "You fools." And we see in her hand, seemingly what would be the internal structure of her hand, because you see some sort of bone structure and stuff like that, more lightning begins to course through her body. And then Asta, it's interesting, right? Because this is the first time, reasonably, I assume, that Asta has felt like fear of someone just flexing their abilities, because he can't sense magic. Like, I think even against Lucci, he was like, you're probably strong. No idea how strong. Can't really sense shit. Let me attack you real quick. So I guess this being the first time he's really felt someone manipulate their ki in like an explosive power sense, of course he'd be like terrified, because this is the first time he's probably ever felt the feeling of someone drastically powering up, which is cool. I like the idea that there's this whole separate key system that can now be used as a power-up system. Will it be elaborated on too much? I doubt it, unless the Land of the Sun joins the Clover Kingdom in a battle against Lucius. I highly doubt beings are going to learn about ki to the degree that we can get more reactions like this, specifically in regard to the ki system rather than the magic system. But still, it's cool to see Asta just, like, every single time the antagonist is powering up, you get all the characters be like, this pressure, it's overwhelming me. This is insane. Like everyone has that. So it's cool to see Asta at one of those moments. We get to see that she pushes her hand out forward, and in an instant, I'm assuming those are after images and not clones, but in an instant, she manages to spawn 4 of herself that just tap all of them. They aren't clones. They have to be after images because they're all with different hands too. Because the bottom one strikes with their left, then the middle bottom one strikes with their right, and the upper middle one strikes with the left, and the final one strikes with the right. So she literally went ha 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 ha, like tapped all their bellies, and by tapping all their bellies hard enough, she sent them all flying, like straight up into the wall. But shockingly enough, not through them. I'm assuming that's just for a property damage thing, but if you're going to cause property damage anyway, you might as well just put them through the wall. And interestingly enough, she radiates a dark aura. I wonder who else could radiate a dark aura. I already said she's Yami's sister early on in the review, but still. The thing is, it's interesting to see how darkness is being used in a different way. It's assumedly, and she's using it in combination with ki on top of that. So she's stacking ki, essentially raising her life energy, I suppose. And then by raising her life energy, she then stacks on darkness magic, which I'm not sure, because notably darkness is a slow moving magic. It's Yami who uses his physical stats to amplify this. Oh. So ki is the summation of life. So if you're able to amplify your ki, then that means that you could hypothetically amplify your base physical abilities to extreme degrees. And then you could compensate in the same way that Yami does the weakness for darkness magic by utilizing ki in order to amp your physicals. So, interesting. She may have used dark magic to push through. Maybe those were just projections. I don't know. It's interesting. I want to see her powers more in depth. But we see that everyone is like, yo, she's just different. She's just that gal. Because everyone's like, bravo, the Ryu's in 7. Well done, Lady Yami. You're the GOAT. The GOAT. She's the GOAT. Like, everyone's just freaking out. And Asta immediately realizes why he's been feeling so uneasy around her and why he recognizes the darkness. Because he's like, Yami. And he immediately runs up and accusingly points a finger. Asta, stop being so darn rude, my boy. But he points a finger and is like, say, don't tell me you're... And I don't know. It's interesting seeing Yami so well replicated in such a smaller form. Like, I can't relate to a similar experience, but I've seen it before where, like, I have friends who have younger siblings who, like, for the most part, they ended up being the exact same, just due to, obviously, sibling influence in the same household. So you just see, like, the older brother being this jacked, crazy, strong dude that happens to do things, and then you just see their smaller copy to it, too. And we get the same thing here, where Ichika immediately just grabs Asta's face. He's like, how dare you approach me, outsider? It's just the exact same eyes and coloring that Yami did very early on in the series. Nice callback. I appreciate it. And we do get to see that Ryuya finds this hilarious, obviously. And he explains that, oh, Ichika is Yami's kid sister. And if you want to get stronger, we have the Ryuya 7 train you. And we see that apparently little Yami, we're going to see Ichika's character arc is going to be learning to respect Asta, I assume, or appreciate him, or whatever. She says she can't stand men like him, so obviously her arc is going to be learning how to stand a man like Asta. That's fine. I appreciate it. Overall, this chapter does a whole ton of good for me, in my opinion. I like how it sort of establishes Asta having regular human reactions for being in a new land. I like how it builds up the differences between the land of the sun and the land of the Clover Kingdom. I like how we get to see how Ryuya can use his own future set ability on not just a macro scale, but a micro scale to help out with certain scenarios. Like, I'm assuming he took them on this walk specifically because he knew this was going to happen in particular, so he made an alternate route by doing this. Then on top of that, it's amazing to see how ki can be used. Like, notably, Asta, I didn't even touch this, but Asta says her ki got 100 times bigger. So she has Kaioken times 100, fellas. So Obviously, that's interesting to learn about. Asta's gonna get an amp like this, and if he can get 100 times stronger in one instant, we may not even need True Double Union anymore. Maybe we just need the key amp, which is gonna go crazy. And obviously, seeing Ichika here, and her having her revealed as Yami's sister, still has me believe in Ryuya some way related, just because of how similar he looks to Yami. But at the same time, it's cool to see a confirmation of a family member for Yami. And obviously, this raises a whole bunch of interesting questions. Why did Yami leave? How does his sister feel about him leaving? How are they going to interact if they ever do meet up again? So many questions, so much to answer, and I'm very excited for next week's chapter. So, those are my thoughts. Please tell me your thoughts in the comment section down below. Thank you so much for watching. Please remember to like, share, comment, and subscribe. Make sure you hit the notification bell so you miss out on any videos that come to the channel. Also, I do have a Patreon down below. You can support me for as low as $1 a month to get things like exclusive videos, early content, and more. Thank you so much for watching once again, and I hope you guys have a wonderful day. This is Zach on the Pencil, writing off.